Today we're going to talk about the bleeding heart plant, Dicentra spectibilis. This is native to Asian countries like Korea, China, Japan. It has beautiful heart-shaped flowers. Aren't these adorable? Like, isn't this so beautiful? I always pick them and I let them dry out. They dry out just like this in a little heart shape. And these make beautiful little decorations to place on things. Now, one thing I need to tell you about this plant is that it is toxic. And although it is toxic, it has been used medicinally. It has. There's very limited evidence. It's hard to find actual preparations. So this is something that we're going to need to either test ourselves or wait for science to do a scientific journal and actually give us their preparation of how they did it and show us that it's safe before we copy and try it ourselves, right? But in like traditional Asian culture, they did use this plant, and they didn't use the flowers, they used the leaves, and most commonly they used the roots. The roots were dried, powdered, and made into either used as a powder, and they actually used that for digestive discomfort. I suppose the roots must be the least toxic of the plant, right? The flowers are obviously the most toxic because you can't eat the flowers. But the leaves and most commonly the roots were used. And this has been documented, in their culture. This is something they used to do. They used to take this plant and use it for medicine. So it's a really questionable plant. Nowadays we don't need to experiment with toxic plants that are health beneficial, right? That are medicinal, but also highly toxic. So this is so toxic that like you can't eat the flower, but if you did have the roots or leaves, you could have a small amount and be fine. But large quantities are cautioned against. So this is the type of plant that you have to know what you're doing, and you have to have experience with it. And even in that point, you're going to be using low doses, very low doses. I actually think this may be something that might be good for homeopathic remedies, because you use such such diluted, minute quantities that, it's fine. Like with, you know what I mean? Okay. Maybe you don't know about homeopathic medicine, but homeopathic medicine is basically they will take a plant and then they will actually dilute it to like 1/100th of its potency, or like very low dosage. And it's really working on the energetics of the plant more than the actual biochemical compounds. You can look into homeopathy if you want, but homeopathic preparations. But back to bleeding hearts. So it is technically a medicinal plant, but it is also a toxic plant, and it's also a beautiful ornamental plant. So since, and obviously the interesting part about it is that it is a heart and it works for cardiovascular health. What a surprise. Actually, I'm not surprised. But I just want to show you guys this beautiful bleeding heart.